My name's Jack Sullivan. Right now, I'm caught up in the wildest shake-up of my whole damn life. I held off on tying the knot until I had my career locked down solid. Maggie, the only woman I've ever called my wife, came into this world just a month after me. Earlier this year, we both hit the big 5-0 and threw ourselves a little birthday bash. Back when we got hitched, we didn't have much worth guarding, so we skipped all those fancy prenup papers. For 21 years, Maggie and I have called this place home. We moved in a year after saying, "I do," and a couple months later, we carried our first kid through the front door. 2 years down the road, our second little rugrat showed up to join the party. Now, both those kids are off at college, living their own lives. I finally talked Maggie into ditching this house for a swanky gated spot for folks 50 and up. Once we were dead set on the new place, we slapped down a contract and a few grand in earnest cash to seal the deal. So yeah, that's why most of our stuff's sitting in boxes right now. Thing is, I ain't heading to that gated community after all. Truth be told, either of us is. Just got off the horn with the realtor, yanking our offer right out from under it. Dropping a couple $1,000 to kickstart my big getaway? Worth every penny. This house, though, it's done for us. We've got no choice but to clear out, since we sealed the sale at closing 3 days back on Monday. We've got until next Friday to hand over the keys. Maggie's under the impression I jetted off on a business trip yesterday morning. Problem is, I haven't had a job since I quit last week. I snagged a one-way ticket to Atlanta instead. From there, I've got a car ready to roll me down to the Gulf, where I'll hop on a ship. In a couple days, I'll be kicking back at my island hideaway. Divorce isn't on my radar with Maggie. What I am doing is taking every dime from the house sale, my 401k cash out, and most of our savings along for the ride. With a shiny new identity in my pocket, I'm dreaming of sailing the Caribbean till my days run out. Setting up offshore accounts cost me a pretty penny, more than I'd like to fess up to. Thanks to some slick electronic banking and a touch of money laundering, all that cash is now tucked into my new persona's crypto stash. There's over 10,000 cryptocurrencies floating around out there, so I'm praying to God the one I picked doesn't tank. First chance I get, I'm swapping that digital fairy dust for something sturdier. Stuff that's imaginary has a nasty habit of vanishing, like Maggie's promises did. At 3 p.m., I dialed up Maggie. She picked up after 4 rings, sounding ticked off, and I went, "Hey, babe. How's the trip going?" she asked. "Oh, you know, same old crap, just a different town," I shot back. "What's keeping you busy?" I asked her. "Just packing up more boxes," she said. "Alright, there's line number 1. She's actually 30 miles away, shacked up at Randy Callahan's place. He's her latest fling. I don't even know if he's her first side piece. Honestly, I don't give a damn either way. One's more than enough to burn me. Sure, I'd love to put a slug through both their skulls, but my payback's simpler. I'm leaving her broke and stranded. Randy's wife will probably take him to the cleaners when she finds out. "You marking the boxes with your stuff?" I asked. "Yep, honey," she said. "Mine say Maggie, yours say Jack. Real easy to sort. Yours go in your closet, mine in mine," she added. "Hey, could you check my desk for my day planner?" "Top right drawer," I tossed out. After a beat, she goes, "I don't see it." "You sure that's where it is?" Line number 2. "You'd have to be in the house, like my brother is right now, to even look." All I needed was my brother to have enough time to gut the place we sold. Seeing as she's clearly not rushing back, I'm feeling good about my scheme staying on track. "No biggie," I said. "You mentioned lunch with friends today. Where'd you go? Anyone I'd know?" I prodded. "Oh, just a diner near work with some gals from the office," she replied. "What's for dinner?" I asked. Line number 3, "She's been at Randy's since 9 a.m., according to my investigator, and hasn't budged. Probably just a steak from room service. Company's footing the bill." I lied back. "What's on your agenda tonight?" I threw out. "More laundry and packing. I hear the dryer going now," she said. "Gotta run. Call me later." Love you. Catch you soon, I said. Guess lying gets easier once you start. Everything about her's a sham now. 2 rental trucks were parked at my old place, with 4 guys hustling to load them up. The one with my gear was bound for a storage unit my brother nabbed this morning. The other was on its 4th run to the consignment shop. Both rigs were due back by 5 p.m. By the time I hung up with Maggie, that house was probably a ghost town. I was waiting on my brother to give me the all-clear. He damn well earned the $5,000 I slipped him. An overnight package from my lawyer was locked and loaded. I'd signed all the papers, tossed in my house keys and garage opener. Maggie's gonna have to cough up hers too. My attorney's about to drop the hammer on her. I didn't bother ringing Maggie again. Tried warning Randy's wife with the investigator's dirt, but she just hung up on me. Life's a wild ride, ain't it? Today, Maggie's getting that investigator's report, complete with snapshots and videos, dropped off by hand. Oh, and I send out 16 packages to boot. I mailed the same juicy details to her folks, her buddies, her boss, her brothers and sisters, and just for kicks, our kids too. For the packages heading to my kids, I tucked in a little note saying I'm let down by how they ghosted me, and I'm not sure I'll ever reach out again. The one I sent Maggie herself? Man, that felt like a weight off my chest, pure venting gold. I'm not real clear on what I hope to get out of all this, beyond shaking things up big time. Still, damn, it felt satisfying. By now, Maggie, you've probably figured out your cheating ways cost you our whole marriage. I grabbed every penny I could get my hands on quick. Took what I wanted from the house too. Everything else we owned? Dropped it off at a consignment joint to be sold off. My lawyer's got the rundown on all that. You can scoop up whatever cash comes from it. I ain't sweating those small potatoes. Don't waste your time hunting for your jewelry either. Those cash for gold spots handed me a fat stack, especially for your aunt's rings. They fetched the biggest haul. My wedding band didn't pull much weight at the payout counter, but oh well, that's life. That little set Randy gifted you? Turns out it wasn't worth squat, kinda like the promises you made at the altar. The house is empty now, and I pulled the plug on that new place we were eyeing. That gated community thing was just a trick to snag all the cash from our old house sale. Thanks for going along with it, hon. I ain't filing for divorce, just so you know. If you want out, you can scrape together the dough for that yourself someday. Me? I'm planning to find someone new ASAP, though I reckon you couldn't care less. I clued the kids in that I'm vanishing for good. They both knew about your flings and didn't say a word, so I'm washing my hands of them, told them that straight up too. Hope all those rotten choices you made don't tie your stomach in knots too bad. Left your dad's pistol and a box of ammo behind for you. Too bad you were too tied up to hit the range with me for lessons. Oh well, just aim and squeeze, right? Got it? If you're thinking something crazy, be smart about it. If Randy hadn't run his yap, I might have stayed in the dark about you too. Him bragging to that bartender about his bedroom conquests. That's what sank you? What are the odds that guy'd swing by my brother Tommy's bar? Tommy said his ears perked right up. Ain't too many gals named Maggie out there. Guess that's my lucky break. Especially after Randy flashed that tacky photo. When he paid with plastic, Tommy checked his ID. From there, rounding up the proof I needed was a breeze. All this mess for a guy who ain't worth a damn? How dumb can you get? Never mind, dumb enough, clearly. Hope you weren't banking on ditching me for Randy. You can still shack up with him, but it'll just be him by your side. Thanks for a handful of sweet moments, I guess, but most of the memories? They're trash now. Jack. Instead of hanging onto my phone, I chucked it to the homeless fella camped out by the hotel dumpster. I jotted down the contacts I gave a rip about keeping. Slept like a baby that night, though it took a bunch of those mini booze bottles from the room to knock me out. Since it all went on my credit card, I didn't sweat it. Ain't planning to stick around long enough to settle any tabs. Doubt any of those bills are getting paid anyway. Maggie's been a stay-at-home wife for 22 years now. She had a job till she got pregnant right after we tied the knot. I was pulling in decent money, so she didn't need to punch a clock. Once the kids flew the coop after high school, though, all that free time turned into her undoing. My investigator couldn't pin down much about how she hooked up with Randy or when it started, but he did catch that both my kids had hung out with M. For some reason, Maggie swung by their college and took M out for dinner. The investigator tailed them, got video with sound, and I recognized both my kids clear as day. Randy got introduced as her companion. Whatever she dangled in front of M sealed their fate. They had plenty of chances to pick up the phone and fill me in, but nah, silence. After charging breakfast to the room, I hopped a cab to a shady used car lot. Just walked out of that hotel, no fuss, no muss. Let Maggie puzzle out why I didn't bother checking out. Wasn't supposed to clear out till Monday anyway. With my beat-up new ride, I pointed it toward the coast. Come Saturday night, I was kicking back on the beach. I'd pulled a wad of local cash from my new identities account, and first thing I did was treat myself to dinner and a few drinks. While I was chowing down, this real friendly gal talked me into spending a bit more of that dough, way livelier company than what I'd been stuck with for over 20 years. Took a few hours with some breaks in between, but I got my money's worth that night. With the exchange rate, I could swing this every damn day if I felt like it, and for now, hell yeah, I do. I'm figuring I'll set up some fresh email accounts, so I picked up a cheap laptop and a new cell phone. Linking this new version of me back to my old life? Yeah, that's gonna be a tough nut to crack. I got a VoIP number going and checked in with Tommy for the latest scoop. He told me Maggie rang him up and slammed the phone down when he poked fun at her mess with Jack. From where I'm standing, well, Maggie's shoes, I guess she's thinking. At least Jack left me that gun. With my head all screwed up, I lie awake at night, wondering if I should just call it quits for good. Back then, I was high as a kite on all the attention. Never dawned on me Randy was just toying with me, turning me into his little puppet. If you'd told me a year ago I'd end up cheating, I'd have laughed till I cried. No freaking way that could happen, not me, never. Guess I was a ripe peach ready to fall off the tree. I ran into Randy at the gym, of all places. He'd be pumping iron right when I was there too. How'd I swallow all those slick, practiced lines of his? Deep down, I reckon I craved someone, not Jack, whispering how pretty, hot, and wanted I was. Guy had patience, I'll give him that. Sweet talk turned into us grabbing a drink and yakking in the parking lot. Heading to the burger joint for a quick bite? That was my first dumb move. What kind of married woman meets a married guy alone like that? Took months of him reeling me in before we got to sneaking little touches when we said goodbye. I started picturing Randy when I was in bed with Jack. Probably made it a cinch to tumble into the real dirty stuff later. I'd already crossed that line in my head, so the jump wasn't far. Him puffing up my ego about how amazing I was just poured gas on the fire. We'd leveled up to sneaking off to his summer house once a week. Slipping home a tad late from errands was a piece of cake. When Jack took off for a few days, I turned into Randy's sidekick. Somewhere along the way, he convinced me I should ditch Jack, grab my half of everything, and he'd do the same with his wife, then we'd be a real pair. No clue what made me spill that to my kids, but I went and did it. Pretty sure Randy nudged me into that to lock in my plan to bail on my marriage. When Jack left for that Atlanta trip, I still hadn't made up my mind. Thought I played it cool on the phone with Jack. But come morning, as I was getting ready to split, my sister's text hit me like a brick. Jack had mailed her a package spilling every nasty detail of my affair. Randy? Jack knows, I blurted. Good, he shot back. Start the divorce now. But I didn't. I clammed up 'cause I wasn't sure I even wanted out. Rushed to the bathroom and hurled my guts out. What the hell have I done? Right about then, a car rolled up, and some guy handed Randy divorce papers. That two-timing bitch, she ain't leaving me with nothing, he snarled. Deal with your own crap, I'm gone, he said and peeled out. Barely made it home, and the house was a damn ghost town. Threw up again in my own bathroom. While I was hunched over the toilet, the doorbell chimed. Found an overnight package waiting outside. Dread hit me hard. Jack's letter tore me to shreds. Phoned my kids, sobbing about the train wreck my life had become. They'd gotten packages too, videos showing the trash I'd turned into for Randy. They were floored that Jack was done with them for good. Figured they'd at least get a shot to explain themselves to him, same as me. Grabbed some drive-through junk and swung by the consignment shop. Shocked me when my credit card still worked. Some of my stuff had already sold, and the jerk there said I'd owe a fee to cancel if I wanted it back. Cheaper just to buy back the essentials I couldn't live without. That fast food churned in my gut, couldn't keep it down. Dialed Jack's cell, and some sloshed guy picked up instead. Kids struck out too. Knew Tommy wouldn't lift a finger for me, but I gave it a shot anyway. He just cackled when I started asking stuff. "Here's a deal, Maggie," he said. $50 a night to sling drinks topless. You need one of those push-up bras to hoist the girls up high. What do you say? Screw you, creep, I snapped. Hey, don't say I didn't offer a hand. Speaking of hands, heard yours wandered off from your hubby, he jabbed. Slammed the phone down on that ass. Longest weekend ever, sleeping on the floor, then scrambling to figure out what else to snag back from that consignment place. Only shoes I had were the ones on my feet when I got home. Not a speck of my makeup survived. Hit up the dollar store for bathroom basics. Tried calling friends and family, but Jack's videos had torched every bridge. Jack's lawyer called, rattled me bad. Locks are getting swapped Friday, whether I'm still inside or not. New owners could slap me with trespassing if they feel like it. Thursday night, I crammed what little I had left into my car and crashed at a dumpy motel. Kid at the desk looked at me like I was some broken-down mess. I'd hit rock bottom, homeless, no less. I knew we had bank accounts and investments, but after Jack's letter, I wasn't holding my breath for a dime. Took forever at each place, arguing till I was blue in the face, just to prove I had a right to peek inside those accounts. What Jack left me wouldn't even cover a crummy apartment. Lucky for me, he didn't kill the credit cards. If I pinch pennies, I can stretch those plastic lifelines for a year, maybe till they get shut off. Calling around for a divorce lawyer just piled on the misery. Cash was too tight to hire one outright. Not a single attorney would touch my case on a pay me if you win deal. Then Randy rang me up, whining he had nowhere to crash, and I just laughed in his face. He pitched us teaming up for some sad sack buddy system. I told him where I was holed up. Left the motel door cracked and waited in my car. Slipped a note inside for Randy to strip down. A few minutes after he walked in, I strolled back, swung the door open, and there he was, buck naked, gawking at me. Jack's words echoed in my head, point and pull. Fired once, and that bullet drilled right between his eyes, crazy, since I was aiming for his chest. Flushed the note down the john and sat tight for the cops. The cop I talked to didn't buy my story, said I came back, saw a naked stranger, and shot in self-defense before I knew it was Randy. Make my day. Law right? They took the gun and hauled me to the station. They cut me loose, but 2 days later, I'm cuffed for first-degree murder. Forgot about that damn phone call, they figured I set Randy up. My public defender's green as grass, barely out of law school. Wasn't banking on a not guilty verdict with him in my corner. At least jail paused my money and shelter woes. Prison life hit me like a freight train, overwhelming doesn't even cover it. Found myself in spots I'd never dreamed of, stuck in degrading, soul-crushing messes. After nights of pure hell, emotional and physical, I snapped. When some inmate tried to run me like her personal punching bag, I fought back hard. Stabbed her and threw everything I had into it. Got me out of that cell, sure, but landed me in solitary instead. My old cellmate's warning about being a marked woman might mean the trial's the least of my worries. Asked the guard where my dinner was, and he said I'd eat only if I played his sick game. After he forced me into something humiliating, I got my tray. Death started sounding real good. Hey Tommy, it's Jack, what's up? Brace yourself, man, he said. Maggie shot Randy dead and then tried to off herself. She's locked up in a state psych ward now. Hearing Tommy lay out Maggie's collapse felt like a fever dream. Catch you later, Tommy. I need to process this. My brain's a damn whirlwind. Told my lawyer to dig into it and give me the rundown. Could I head back without trouble? How do I haul my cash back stateside? He said hang tight a few days, he'd verify Tommy's story and spell out my next moves. Took a stroll by the beach, and it didn't take long to find a gal for the night. Loving this freedom I've carved out. After a couple hours of fun, I crashed for the evening. Good thing I stashed my valuables in the room's safe. Still, worth every cent. Couldn't recall her name, but her face might ring a bell if I saw her again. Next day, couldn't track down last night's gal, so I found another taker. This legal setup's treating me right. She charged less and kept me entertained for a quick spell. I'm hooked on these hookups now. When I'm with these women, my old life doesn't even cross my mind. Read once that cash can't buy joy, hogwash. Cash buys ice cream, and ice cream makes me grin. That logic's gotta have a hole somewhere. Same deal with company. A loving wife was swell till she wasn't. Tossing some bucks to these hardworking single moms feels like my good deed for the day. 9 months back, my lawyer greenlit my return. Ain't happening though. I'm too deep in this daily ritual since that first night. Some nights, I bounce between different gals till dawn. By lunch, they spot me coming and perk right up. Word is I'm overpaying, but I call it money well spent. Tried doubling up with 2 at once, didn't love it as much. No risk, no reward, I suppose? Still sore about my kids, so I mailed them each a card with a quarter taped in. Wrote, next time life's tough, dig deep for the guts to do right. If you can't, flip this quarter to pick. Keep it, it's all you're getting from me. Maggie's labeled nuts and still in that state joint. Murder raps forever, so even if she pulls it together, it's just downhill from there. Leave a comment with your thoughts on the story. And subscribe to our channel so you don't miss new interesting stories. See you soon.